Hello, and welcome to House of Decline. We have a special episode for you today. Well, all of our episodes are special and wonderful, but this slightly more, because we have someone who's been a huge influence on me in terms of webcomics and many of my webcomic siblings. It's Kris Wilson from Cyanide and Happiness.
Hey, folks, thanks for having me, and I'm glad I can be a special influence today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, you're definitely, I think, undoubtedly, you have influenced the scape of the comics world, because as the gaming webcomic fell from grace, gag comics seem to have been the thing that have taken their place as more substantial and more widespread.
That was the goal. That definitely was the goal.
Also, we have, as always, Steven.
Oh, hi.
Hello, Steven.
Glad to be here.
Steven's coming. Well, and we're just going to have a freewheeling conversation about the legend of webcomics and, how it
Let's open the old tomb, and blow the dust off it.
The dusty book of webcomics.
The Codex Giga filled with dick and butt jokes.
But, I mean, it's great having you on because you, from a very early time in the history of webcomics, have been active and popular. And I feel like you've seen it all. And, like, in the same way that, like, a lot of webcomics, pieces of them got chipped away over time, like the statue of Ozymandias, Cyanide and Happiness has remained largely sort of unchanged and still chugging along and has managed to navigate two different worlds, because it feels like starting a webcomic now, it feels like Dark Souls. It feels like you're persisting in a ruined world. There was once these great monuments of glory, and they have, you can still live in the world, and people are still going around, and you can make your way, and you can do stuff. But I was wondering, like, so what was your experience with that arc of webcomics, where they were huge in this, like, late 2000s period, but as social media became more of a thing, like, your numbers got saturated because of all these new media forms. Like, could you speak to that arc of webcomics?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, when things first, when we first came on the scene, it was video game comics almost in its entirety. And also because of the lack of social media, it was a bit more of a bubble. It was a lot more recursive. Like there was the webcomics audience, and they were the people who read webcomics. And something that social media actually kind of got us out there is the dawning of MySpace, and how there was a whole trend about, like, don't let people hyperlink from your website. And we didn't care. We just said, go crazy. We just want people reading it. And so it became much more shared on things like MySpace than a lot of other webcomics and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And for us, like, it's crazy to think how big webcomics were back there. It's definitely harder to notice and see. Like, even going to comic conventions, it was all, I don't know, just kind of quiet website hits that you would get, and maybe comments on a forum and stuff like that. But it didn't have as much, I guess you call it, engagement, that filthy word. But the change, like, we I remember back when our comic got larger, like officially it was larger than Penny Arcade, and so we put a little banner on our website saying "Dick jokes win."
Hell yeah, fuck you, Tycho and Gabe. Nah, I'm sure they're fine people. They
are fine people. They helped Dave McElpatrick. They helped get him into the country and get his work visa from a recommendation they wrote when he got sent back from New York. He flew to New York to come animate with us in Texas and stuff, and then he got tossed back, and the Penny Arcade guys helped get him back in. So,
with that black cap he wears.
We might have some kind of snafu like that in our future.
I'm Canadian, so I'm coming from my weird Commonwealth country. I guess Ireland's not really a Commonwealth country. They'd probably kick my ass for saying that. But yeah, that's the real Irish immigrant experience. He went to Ellis Island and everything, and they kicked him around, and
gave him a new name.
Yeah, he had to make his way as a shoe shine in order to get the money back.
That's right.
It was a whole thing. But yeah. So it starts off in this insular world, but you're getting like, I think even your Wikipedia says at the height you were getting like 1 million hits a day. And
Yeah.
has like the ad revenue gotten less from that, and you have to find other sources of ad revenue now from like multiple sources, or like what's the deal with that?
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, websites as a whole are dying out. So like, I could see a future maybe 5 to 8 years from now where just some of the things like websites kind of go out of fashion, just kind of apps linking to each other. I think even typing in a URL will be seen as old soon, where that'll be like as kind of archaic as like using a run command on a computer or something. So like we from the beginning, we've always known that we got to be versatile and kind of not try to challenge all the change and everything. I do think the internet sucks ass compared to how it used to be in some ways, but like it's a lot more spread around, and we're lucky with our brand is pretty recognizable, and so as people steal it and put it around and everywhere, it still comes back to us. And so we've changed up how we do some things. We do the animation is kind of its own universe and has its own audience entirely, and then party games is something we've been doing a lot of. And we don't like we don't want to have one website have a control over us. So like we don't want to, if we fucking get kicked off Facebook for the 200th time, that it doesn't ruin everything else that we're doing. A lot of bobbing and weaving with all the changes. And so now we're trying to figure out, well, I mean, what the hell do we even want to do with something like TikTok? Things like that.
Is there like excitement in like trying to figure out these new forms of social media, or is it like a chore?
Some it's excitement, definitely. We've been doing this for almost 20 years. So a lot of the times it's more of our eagerness that, we want to do animations, we want to do a full series, we want to do video games, stuff like that. It's stuff that we do to kind of keep it fresh for us as well.
Have you ever had, because I've noticed stuff now, like, so I observed that a lot of the CNH style, you started out from sticksuicide.com, right? And a lot of that comes from that Newgrounds, when I associate that supremely with Newgrounds and that sense of humor, where it was, very deeply trying to be offensive, but there was something lighthearted about it.
Right.
And that has sort of, over the course of like a decade, that has sort of transformed and bubbled up into the mainstream. And I think the surest example of that hitting is Smiling Friends. Have you seen Smiling Friends?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We come from the Newgrounds folks. Zach and Michael are buddies of ours and voice actors for us and stuff like that. Yeah. We all come from that Newgrounds era style for sure. And yeah, you're right that like being in that arena and just being in that culture, shapes some of the sense of humor and whatnot. And we definitely, we never tried to be offensive. We just kind of found out we were
funny,
when people told us that, hey, that's offensive. I'm like, oh, okay.
You learn as you go. But I think, because like Smiling Friends is like very different than the stuff like Psychic Pebbles was putting out even 5 years. It feels much more refined and mature, and like has a very adult sense of story structure, and is very
right.
And I've seen CNH evolve like that as well, because I think there's also that. Did you notice that over the course of your 20s there became less of an urge to push buttons? Or I don't know if even the urge to push buttons was even there to begin with, but I noticed like in my teens and my early 20s, I was like, I'm gonna try and do the raw shit, I'm gonna like speak the truth, I'm gonna like but as I've gotten older, I've just mellowed out and be like, what? Just wear Hawaiian shirts, man,
Yeah, exactly. I think just people got a little worn out by it, a little fatigued. When everyone's trying it, it just kind of becomes, that's when you have like, I think that's when like probably part of why why relatable comics became a big thing for a few years, where it was all slice of life and, oh, that's me, I'm going to share that because this is me. Like I think that some of that wholesome kind of relatable stuff came out of a wave of people trying to be the dirtiest degenerates they could be. And it just becomes boring after a while.
I think Another quality, you talk about that replication, but something interesting about Cyanide and Happiness, and something that I seek to emulate in my own comics, is how easy it is for someone to make their own Cyanide and Happiness comic. Like,
Yeah.
And was that part of it? Did you consciously do that as like, we like the idea that it is this is like a punk thing, you know, anyone can do this, and that's sort of what makes it appealing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I was first starting the comic out, there were things like, this is what I wanted to see in webcomics. I was one of those people who's just reading a lot of them. And I liked more of the comics that were kind of like White Ninja back in the day.
Oh, White Ninja.
Right.
Fucking rule. Like, it's sad that you can't get them anymore.
I know.
It's the lost media that I would most love to recover is White Ninja comics. Because, you know, look
absolutely.
at my guys. It's just White Ninja, you know.
Yeah, I can definitely see the influence, which, yeah, great influence. They definitely were a big, I've made a lot of stylistic choices seeing some of what they did. And then I was also just big into like Don Hertzfeldt and Jonah Vasquez and stuff at the time. I was like 14. So got really into them. And there was a conscious effort to like, it needs to look bad. Like, Rob, Dave, and I, we can draw, we can animate, but that's not what this is about. You know what I mean? It's not about making things look nice. When I was first drawing them, like basically moving them to digital instead of just in a school notebook, I was using a ball mouse to draw them, and it was so much more difficult. Like I've even used like laptop trackpads to draw them just to make sure that they like don't look too refined, don't look too good. Like it was supposed to be amateur, not only for an accessibility to the style, but also just it's a good way to tell your audience that you're not so serious about it.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that helps when it has that made in the garage kind of vibe to it, that it helps like the tone of the entire thing. I totally
agree with that. I mean, I saw that night and day when I was doing these very intricate, crosshatchy political comics, and I was trying to tell jokes, but they were too severe for the joke to land. And the minute I like simplify my style to as simple as it could possibly be, these jokes are landing much better. I think there is something to that. Where
absolutely,
it's like the art gets in the way of the joke sometimes.
I agree. I think that some people who are more art focused with their comics, they kind of go towards what they want to draw rather than what they want to write.
Yeah.
And so you can sometimes end up like, I don't think any comic is good with bad writing, but an ugly comic can be great with good writing, So
absolutely.
Like you can see, I think there's a vibe where it's like, oh, they prioritize the art more than the writing here, or vice versa. And I'm more for make it ugly, and I want it to be interesting.
Yeah. That's to me, and I think probably for a lot of people, that's when I dropped off of Penny Arcade, is when Gabe got too good. He got too good at art, and it was like suddenly it wasn't this homey, hanging out with my buddies thing that I could do myself. I could draw my own two guys on a couch comic. It became this epic tale, they kept doing, and kudos for them, because you can't do the same thing over and over again, and I'm glad they evolved as artists. But that's sort of when the vibe got lost, and
it feels a little corporate suddenly. Even though he never ended up fixing his banana fingers that he'd always had. All the art would look better, the shading would look nicer, and then you'd have just the big amorphic hands.
Yeah.
One of my favorite webcomics, which also I think sort of typifies that placing the writing first, is Lego Robot Comics. Do you know that?
Oh, I haven't heard of that now.
It now goes by Plastic Brick Automaton because of Lego.
They got sued.
Problems.
Oh, yeah.
Lego was not cool with, but one of the very first comics by them has turned into a meme that has lasted since like 2004, which you probably have seen.
Which one is that?
It's from the comic Reese's. It's like Reese's for breakfast, and it's the guy who is doing
Oh, he's the cereal eating guy. The
guy eating cereal.
Oh, okay. Is this the same people who did the White Whale Holy Grail?
Yes.
Mastodon one?
That old
that
4chan meme about Mastodon. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's stabbing. He's jealous of a boyfriend or something.
Yeah.
Those
Okay.
are very, very, very crudely drawn, but some of the hardest I've laughed.
Right.
Is going through that.
Yeah.
We need to go uglier. I think that, like, how can we go uglier? There's got to be a way.
We can get uglier, damn it.
Yeah.
That's why I sort of respect, like, the designs of Big Mouth. Or it's like, I've always been, like, I've never been attracted to drawing in that super anime style of making things pretty and, you know, finely appointed. I sort of like how Big Mouth is, we're going to make these characters as fucking unappealing as possible.
Right.
Or there's a sort of respect I have, even though, you know, I don't know how you feel about it. It's weird to me, like, when big budget animation does rigging, because, like, the Venture Bros got me too used to, like, oh, animation can be this, TV animation can be this good. Why isn't this good all the time?
When I saw Venture Bros for the first time, I was like, this looks too good to be, like, funny.
Yeah.
And then I was blown away. It's like, wow, it's super funny, and it looks it looks amazing and has so much original character motion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then on the opposite spectrum, I don't like Archer so much, mostly because the rigging animation, it's like the cheapest cartoon on TV, but also it just, you can tell that one person wrote it because all the characters have one voice. And they kind of do the same thing. Why do you have 6 characters when they all say the same thing? Yeah. But
well, they talk in different voices, though.
They talk in different voices, but same idea, same one guy behind it all, like making his dolls argue with each other.
The snappy dialogue. I mean, Archer was good. Archer has no business going on for like 40 seasons or whatever it had. It was good for like 3 seasons back when the agency was still called ISIS. And then they had to scrap that.
Yeah. It's going because it's the cheapest cartoon on TV. It's like, I think 600,000 an episode, which...
Wow, really? Wow.
Primetime TV.
Most of that is probably just going to H. John Benjamin.
Yep. Yeah, he deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. You could make an AI that could animate an Archer episode.
Right. Yeah. I hope to see it soon.
But it starts affecting stuff that I really love, because I wanted to watch Alex Hirsch's new cartoon on Netflix, the conspiracy one, and it's like, man, you made Gravity Falls one of the best looking fucking shows on TV, and Netflix got you cheaped out so much that they have you with this very not good looking stuff. I don't know.
Well, it's always sad when it's not good looking, but it's not by design, when they're just kind of stuck with that. But it could work if you go into it with the idea of it not being good looking. I'm certain.
I think so. But yeah, I think... I mean, the other reason why they do it is because, like, a lot of these shows are very elaborate sometimes. So in order to fit in as much background shit as they want, it's like, okay, we gotta do rigging. We're doing rigging. If we want this much detail, we gotta do it.
Yeah, and often, like, I mean, most of the animation that you'll see on TV in general is done either in India or South Korea. Mm-hmm. So, like, usually you need to send a full rig, and you can't do something all that wild and adventurous if it's not something that the studio you're sending it to is, like, ready for anything that's not rigged and posed characters. Yeah. You'll run into some problems there. We're fortunate in the fact that we became an animation studio and don't really have to outsource it in many ways.
That's interesting. I didn't know they were outsourcing. What aspects are being outsourced?
The usually full animation. You could do it where they have you send an animatic or an animated storyboard, and they go from there. I haven't seen a whole lot of methods other than they do all the full animation, all the in-betweens and stuff like that, and send it back. Usually you'd sometimes have to adjust the lip syncing and stuff too, since they might not be native English speakers and fully understand. So there's usually some post adjustment after that. But a lot of outsourced animation. South Korea and India are the big places.
If you were to have you pitched like a CNH show to Adult Swim and stuff like that?
Yeah. Let's see. We actually got picked up on Comedy Central's production slate back in 2011. And then we walked from that because the deal didn't go well for us. So we walked from that and decided we were going to mostly stick to internet with our brand. And then we've had TV show. We've had Purgatony was one of the TV shows we made that ended up on Sci-Fi, along with some of our animated shorts and stuff. We pitched around and we've been, I don't know, we've been kind of hot potatoed for quite a long time. Sometimes we get picked up, people want, the execs or whatever, like we're looking for, and their understanding of shows is very minimal. So they're like, we're looking for a show. They just has to have two close friends, after Adventure Time was big, we're looking for someone to make
we need a
two
dog
close
and a boy.
friends. Exactly. Yeah. Where they just surface level. And then they often reach out to us, especially since we run our own animation studio and all that. And we currently we're doing some consulting for Despicable Me 4.
Yo, hell
stuff
yeah.
like that. Yeah. We're in the Minions machine. Just
you're
giving advice.
Generating your own. There'll be CNH minions soon enough. They'll be wearing.
Oh yes.
Man, I feel bad for anyone who wears yellow in overalls now because it's over for them.
It is over. Oh no, the whole early '90s wardrobe is gone.
Yeah, the big Jenkos, the big overalls are coming back.
Yeah, my wife keeps trying to get me to put my kid in overalls, and I won't do it.
Because it's infantilizing.
Well, it's too complicated. Like, a piece of clothing that complicated, I don't have the patience for, because like I'm like trying to program my stupid Discord bot, and any time that takes me away from that, from our goal.
My true baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I imagine a kid's just going to get tangled up and stuck on it, and they're already like constantly sticky, so that's just too many moving parts.
Absolutely. Fucking. So I see a piano back there. I see a piano in your room. Are you a musician? Are you a music man? You make a lot of music?
I am a bit of a music man, yeah. Here in Colorado, we do a lot of the sound design and voice acting and whatnot for the animations.
Oh yeah.
And when not doing CNH stuff, sometimes my close friend, colleague Ben and I, we are mixing albums for people and recording and stuff like that. I've been doing audio stuff since like 2008, 2007.
Hell yeah.
And play piano, guitar, bass, drums, all the string stuff in between, banjo, ukulele, stuff like that.
I'll do the Mark Maron thing. Who are your guys? Who are your guys?
My guys?
Yeah.
Okay, well, Mr. Maron, before you break this down into
geez, I had a heroin problem, but I had a coke problem, but I solved it using anger in podcasting.
Yeah, using anger and self-loathing.
Yeah.
I pulled myself out of it. My guys would be like Mike Patton, Tom Waits, Devin Townsend, folks like that.
Goofy metal men.
Goofy metal man.
Who are super cool. Like
Mike Patton is very serious. I like how he's very serious, and he doesn't like stuff that I also don't like. That's probably I think I liked Mike Patton the most when he was talking about how much he hated Wolf Mother.
Yeah, that's such a great clip.
I was like,
so good.
And I don't know if he's had anything to say about Greta Van Fleet, but every so often Mike Patton needs to show back up and give an interview about the new Led Zeppelin ripoff band. But I love Mike Patton. Alex, would you say you like Mike Patton more or John Zorn more? Because you're probably more of a Zorn guy.
Right? I think I like Mike Patton. Well, because I'm a singer, so I aspire to be as wacky and multifarious as his abilities.
Right, massive range.
But he's just attached to so much fucking great stuff, like from Faith No More, Mr. Bungle. I already mentioned Fantomas. He'll do stuff with in Italian. He'll do Ennio Morricone scores and stuff like that. It's just a very...
Tomahawk is also a good project of his. Tomahawk.
Tomahawk's good. I like Lovage as well. Lovage is great. Elephant Man was pretty fun. As all those short things. He did a really great EP with Dillinger Escape Plan.
Oh.
And they did live Aphex Twin songs. They'd cover it live and stuff. Pretty nuts on the drumming side of things. But yeah, as a fan, I can't keep up with him. He's making music faster than I have time to listen to music.
One day I'm gonna listen to all the Buckethead albums. I'm gonna listen to all 800 Buckethead albums.
I tried in high school. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. Yeah, it's mostly just droney ambient music. A lot of it.
Yeah, that was a good time. I couldn't pirate Buckethead albums faster than he could put them out.
Right.
Like literally, I think my connection was too slow, and like one or two seaters. You know, I was on Oink.com. Remember that?
I never used Oink. No.
I wish I kept my Oink account active, because it got shut down and then turned into a different private torrent tracker. But if you had an account,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no! If you had an account, you would get like rolled over. That's all.
Oh, then you get to keep all your
You
downloads.
just kept access to the private torrents and such, which was.
Have you heard of SoulSeek?
Yeah, I'm on SoulSeek every day, basically.
I'm allegedly on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
we don't endorse piracy. No pirates here. We're not a Johnny Depp podcast. We're an Amber Heard podcast.
I share my own music. It's available on SoulSeek. You can go download it from me if you ever catch me on there. So
that's awesome.
Okay, but here's the thing with like music and comics. Do you find that music influences the way you do comics? Because especially with gag comics, rhythm is very important. And
right.
You know, I wonder if you could speak to that idea, that combination.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, like I would say it's not like a one-to-one kind of music and the comics together, but there's some things about like a lot of the ideals of like when we were starting, how we handle people ripping things off and stuff is kind of based around more of a musician's kind of mindset, rather than like treating it like we're some super important syndicated comic that demands respect. I guess you could say we're a bit more punk rock about it. We're about being loud and noisy and trying to break some of the conventions that were with video game comics and stuff like that. So it was a little bit of an anti attitude towards the comic system,
the comics establishment. No more VG Cats. That guy ended. Yeah. I wonder what happened to VG Cats, and I saw it ended a bit, and sort of made me sad in a way. You say it was a specific reaction against gaming comics. Like, did you have like a lot of ire against gaming comics when you were young?
No, I just wanted it to be about comedy. I wanted it to be about humor and wackiness, silliness, stuff like that. I just wanted it to be something other than like it's just so oversaturated with the games talk, and it's about the game you're referencing, and then character says something smug or something. And it's just like as a reader it was boring, what I mean.
I think especially with stuff like, I mean, Penny Arcade, I don't know, it had that reputation of being a cut above other game comics. I think largely due because Tycho was a good writer and he had a pretty distinctive voice. Yeah, and definitely. But you go back to like Penny Arcades from like 2003, and you just don't understand what the hell they're talking about because it's some hyper specific John Romero reference, and,
right?
But you go back to like a CNH from like very early on, and it still works because it's a more universal joke. So I think it proved to be a good idea.
Yes, thank you. All paid off because I was fighting off the urge to make a goddamn Tomb Raider 4 comic.
You gotta. Oh, that is something that I do have. The urge to pander, I absolutely do fall for.
Once you learn how to do it with precision, then yeah.
Well, once you get an audience, your audience will start asking for stuff, and you wonder like how much should I give them, and how much before they will expect too much.
Right. And it was that expectation from us on why we went to start doing like depressing comics and doing depressing
comics week. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they wanted depressing comics?
Well, no, they had expectations, and we wanted to get rid of that. They expected a gag, a joke, and then we would hit them with something definitely not that, just to to break their expectations.
Yeah, I got to break the monotony a little.
That's very funny.
Do the complete opposite, and we're gonna make you sad.
Yeah, I'll do that sometimes where I'll have like a wholesome comic about, oh, it's a queer family reuniting, and then my next comic will be a guy slitting his penis open with a razor blade. And,
Yeah, I call those Jesus, I forgot what I call them. They're tone setters, though. They're important to throw out there to be like, you got to expect both. Do not come here for just one type.
Yeah, you have to. There's a holistic.
Important.
A holistic attitude. Yeah, you gotta shed the wheat from the chaff, you know.
Yeah, come for the wholesomeness, stay for the penis slitting.
Stay for the penis slitting.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes there's a Homer episode, sometimes there's a Marge episode, sometimes there's a Lisa episode.
Right.
Well, I think that's true. You say that, but you know, The Simpsons was great at having this for their time, pretty wild stuff, and then having these really genuine and earned sentimental moments. Which was
Absolutely.
I miss those episodes. Those are the best episodes.
Absolutely. Moaning Lisa still makes me cry. You know, I think about it too much, and I start thinking about, Marge saying,
you cry
we'll
a lot,
love you
though.
just as... Yeah, I cry a lot. I'm a crying guy. I love Steven Universe. Steven Universe is a great show.
Is that the best show to cry to?
No, what's a really good show to cry to? I cried to I watched the Norm Macdonald special earlier this morning.
Man,
and
I'm gearing up. I'm treating it like a tasty little prize at the end of a work day.
I won't, because there is stuff to spoil. And there's a panel at the end where they talk about him, and that's them remembering him and remembering, sort of this. When you do comedy, especially like if you don't do like a lot of work in the community like me, like I'm not out there doing charity. I'm not doing good works. But there is this sense that when you're doing comedy, you are contributing in some way to making people's existence less unbearable. Right. I don't know. Do you ever try and hype yourself up, like develop a philosophy around it where you're aggrandizing yourself, or is it more just like I just try and be funny and that's it?
Oh, I just try and be funny. No, I'm at the maximum amount of imposter syndrome. Just trying to be funny and not believing when anybody says that I am. And I say, "Oh, you fucking liar! I just tricked you."
Yeah, absolutely. You're like that all the way. I can't believe there's this massive conspiracy. Millions of people are in this conspiracy to convince me that I'm funny.
Yeah, exactly. It's being like gang stalked by really nice people.
Yeah, reverse paranoia. I think that's actually called pronoia.
Is it?
There is a word for it. It's pronoia, and which is the idea that people are in a conspiracy for your benefit. Which, sometimes I like to think. Yeah.
Right.
Or sometimes you get the feeling. Have you ever seen like the clip of Quantum Leap where it's Scott Bakula and he's leaped into the body of a kid with Down syndrome?
Yes. Yeah.
And
probably the only one I've seen.
Yeah, but there's sometimes I feel like
funny
that.
Enough for me.
And sometimes I feel like I'm actually like there's something mentally I'm slow, but somehow everyone has promoted me somehow, and has just said good job enough to the point where I have an audience, and I guess I shouldn't question that.
No, I mean, don't change it up. Maybe I wouldn't know what it's like to kind of be like, all right, I'm ready to change the world with my boner joke. I don't know what that would be like from that perspective, but I imagine it would change your writing to a degree.
I think there are a lot of comedians that do feel this way. What do you think motivates that?
I guess stand-up is really its own culture.
Yeah.
So they have, I don't know, they gatekeep each other in such a way that a lot of what comes out the other end are these people that are like, you either have I'm going to do nice comedy, Ellen DeGeneres stuff, or you can't do comedy because in this climate and all this nonsense. I figure the goal is just be funny.
Yeah.
Be funny. Like I get caught up in this new wave. I love stand up. I've watched it since I was like 3 years old. And I love for the lolcow kind of side of what Joe Rogan is doing to comedy.
Yeah.
Where he was never like a real substantial stand-up comic, and now he's bringing in all these podcast hosts and giving them these huge audiences, and now they're like, I'm like Brendan Schaub, you know?
Yeah, he's not good, and he's like, but you know, there's something about gassing up your untalented friend, which is universally everybody. That's
why
knows
I am
that.
a fan.
Yeah,
I am a fan of that part.
Yeah.
And they all sit around with cigars talking about comedy like with this reverence.
I at least understand the appeal of Rogan Guy. I get why people like that stuff. And I mean, Tom Segura never really did it for me.
Right.
Big
I
J.
liked him.
Okerson.
I liked him somewhat, I think, early. I've recently been having this whole thing where I don't like stand-up anymore because it's all people who are talking about how they can't say mean stuff or whatever. And I was talking about this a couple episodes ago. The only comedian I still like is maybe Brian Regan, because he just doesn't talk about anything political at all. He's just talking about like absurd things about American life, like having an extra medium.
Yeah.
How you can't have an extra medium.
Well, yeah, it's, that happened to me too with Jim Gaffigan, though, where it's like,
right.
But yeah, Jim Gaffigan I used to like, and then all of a sudden he's on Twitter being like, "Vote for her."
I don't like Trump now. You know, it's and you know, good for him. You know, Trump sucked. Everyone got on the bandwagon of hating on him. But what is Jim It's it's that old Dave Chappelle joke. We got to get Ja Rule in to comment on this.
But then he became
he became a commentator. You can see Ja Rule on CNN.
Oh my God, you can?
Yeah.
Murder Inc.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ja Rule, I'm surprised that he wasn't funneled in there through the Joe Rogan pipeline. Joe Rogan to stand-up pipeline.
Yeah. The one guy though who does deserve a huge audience, who's also like a weird evil guy sometimes, is Joey Coco Diaz.
Oh yeah.
He's genuinely incredibly funny, and I'm glad Rogan gave him an audience.
Yeah,
he's also
been around
very
for so long.
fucked up dude. He's a strange dude. Yeah.
He's like kind of unleashed criminal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy for it. National treasure.
Joey Coco Diaz. And did you see him on Alex Jones, going, a junkie's a junkie?
No. Oh my God, I need to add it to my playlist. That's my junk food watching. Alex Jones and shit like this. I didn't know he made an appearance. No, it's kind of hard to keep up with Alex.
Because he's not on YouTube, and he got shit canned for that Sandy Hook truth shit. That went a little far. I'm gonna say it might be controversial to say, but I think Sandy Hook truther. Nobody likes those guys. Those guys.
Yeah. I don't know who was who was waiting for the next Sandy Hook update from Alex Jones, but
it's great. That shit is crazy. Like, because some of the Sandy Hook parents got convinced about Sandy Hook truth as well. Which was, at least one that I know of. But I said some. One that I know of became a Sandy Hook truther. Which is,
Jesus.
I mean, that's somewhat rational to me. Like, you have a terrible traumatic event and you're looking for something to explain it.
I got a question for you, Chris.
Sure.
This just slightly changed the topic.
Sandy Hook truth wasn't good? You didn't like Sandy Hook?
Another thing.
You didn't
another
like
thing about
children?
Sandy Hook. I'm not done.
We'll circle back around. Oftentimes I think like the internet is kind of the root of all our problems, but you're someone, and now I am someone who's now benefiting from it in a material way. But I often think like, man, I wish I could just turn it off. Just turn off the internet. Like, do you see that as something you would be in favor of? Can I convince you to join my clan of internet turn off people?
Well, yeah. I mean, yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the internet's just a mirror of what people are. I don't think it makes them better or worse. I just think it's who they are. But I'm also someone who, I have no problem unplugging for weeks at a time. I grew up in a town of 150 people in Wyoming, out in the middle of nowhere, and the idea of like how, I don't know, you learn to entertain yourself and have a good time, even if it's just you in the middle of a windy field. And so like not touching my phone, not getting on the internet for days in a row is pretty standard. I think my job would be heavily impacted by the internet turning off entirely.
You'd have to use mail a lot more or something.
Yeah, I'm going to be printing out my dumbass jokes at Kinko's and sending them in envelopes.
I mean, that it's interesting you said you don't think it has affected people, because I guess that's where I might disagree, but I don't know. Maybe I haven't thought about it deeply enough. In that it's a mirror of what people are really like. You don't find that this interconnectedness is causing things to be worse at all?
Well, I guess to me, the feeling is that it's not causing them to be worse. It's right on time. You know, I think that people, like, the internet forces people to be kind of louder. Yeah. And it forces people to, I guess people do assume if you're in a position where the internet's most of what you got as far as your social interactions, that could be negative. But I have a hard time saying it's the cause of people acting that way, if that makes sense. I think people are kind of that way, and then they kind of throw it out like material and see how it does, and then they kind of adjust a little bit based on that. But it seems like on the rails, like they were kind of that person to begin with.
Well, the thing about the internet, which people say, is that it's alienating people because it gives you sort of the illusion of social interaction without it being as substantial. But the problem with that is, like, I know so many counter examples of people who have made long-lasting and intimate friendships through the internet that, I don't know. Is it?
I agree.
Is it? So I think in some way, I think if you're using social media incorrectly, and like it can get to that point where you get very isolated from it.
Yeah, I'd say
I think
so.
I'm using it wrong then.
Might be wrong.
I think I'm using it wrong.
You're feeling very. I mean, it's not incorrectly or correctly, but there is a way to, like, I feel like, especially like doing that. I'm displaying my best life stuff on Instagram. That sort of leads to mental illness.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some people are a bit more susceptible to that. Yeah. I think that more people than we account for understand what the internet is while using it as well.
I think
understand its effects.
So that concept of the internet as a mirror, that was like initially part of the ethos of 4chan, which is like, because it's anonymous, because when people are free to comment, this will be essentially the subconscious. This is what people are really thinking. And it sort of was innocent for a few years, and then it got overrun with terror.
Right.
How much? Were you on 4chan back then? Were you interested in that humor, or was that a bridge too far for you?
I didn't use the website of 4chan at all. We ended up doing a panel with Moot over there at MIT of all places.
Very funny.
That's cool.
And I kind of just didn't know where some of these things were coming from. I didn't know what 4chan was as a source until after that point. So like missed some of it, but I think that I'm from like old using forums kind of era where that was kind of everywhere to some degree. Mm-hmm. And then like whack-a-mole, these websites go away and then they end up in one spot, and that's how it became 4chan. I assume. But no, I wasn't an active user. I've never used it.
Something Awful. Did you glean any humor from Something Awful, which is where 4chan came from?
Something Awful for sure. Something Awful, Newgrounds. Both of them were pretty big for me, especially Rob. I know Rob was a pretty active Something Awful member, taking part in the Photoshop contest and stuff like that.
Did he see like Chow Chow 3 and it blew his mind, and he like had him, in The Simpsons where Homer's mom sees Joe Namath's sideburns and like the camera whirls around her?
Oh yeah. I mean, Jesus, Chow Chow blew everyone away for years, and it was kind of an enigma where it's like, when is he going to drop another one? And back then, I was using Rob's forums and his websites. He did the Joe Zombie animation series, and I was kind of doing stick figure animations as well, but they were comedy focused, and kind of as a collective, all these stick figure violence kind of animations went in this super serious direction where they had to be these cinematic movies, and they're trying to do like these 3D pan arounds. And that was Rob. Rob started going into, let's make a AAA action film with these stick figures and stuff. And part of how CNH came around to begin with was wanting to take a break from animation, to stop doing, thousands of frames and just do one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think that, like folks like Rob and Dave saw that as a nice break as well from trying to do, these big blockbuster stick figure violence animations. I pulled him over to like, let's be stupid and irreverent.
Mm-hmm. Well, because I remember the Madness series was sort of like the ultimate stick figure violence series.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he didn't even use sticks, man. He didn't even use lines.
Do you ever get criticized for that?
Who is this show off?
Yeah.
Oh, like on Newgrounds way back in the day when people would have debates on if it's good, if it has stick figures kind of thing. But that's not a conversation I'm willing to be a part of.
We should bring back the Clock Crew. We should.
I was thinking about how's Strawberry Clock doing.
I do genuinely wonder, because talk about like a niche internet micro celebrity that is a person who's still out there. Maybe they died. It would be crazy to learn that. Oh yeah, Strawberry Clock, he's dead.
Yeah. His plane went down, Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, legendary frog, throat slashed from ear to ear.
Tom Fulp himself is killing him. There's so many classics. I know like Joe Cartoon, if you remember that. He's kind of going, he's still on the internet doing like country songs and little editorial cartoons.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what you got to do. So we talked about like this Newgrounds influence. I was wondering if there was any like classic comic strips that were very influential on your stuff. Like what are some old syndicated comic strips or some
The
old
Far Side would
newspaper
be a
strips?
big one.
Oh yeah.
The Far Side's definitely a big one, especially just for the humor and even what he could do with a single panel and stuff. I read all the Garfields. I wouldn't say they're much of an influence, but I did read all of them.
We all did. We've all read all the Garfields. Yeah.
I read them all too. It's
Right.
It's kind of like a weird novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like a funny novel.
Yeah, it's about one man's descent into madness talking to his cat.
Yeah, it's John Arbuckle's Purgatory, and you just watch him suffer for books. Well, that was back when it was the threshold was, the books. Nobody's going to get the daily paper and have them all collected like that. Just doesn't seem possible.
A guy with all the Garfield strips on like a cork board, and he's got red string going from one Garfield strip
connecting them all.
Yeah. I was wondering if something that I've noticed on the internet, and something that I don't know whether you know it or not, I see reproduced in CNH's style, is Nancy comics. Did you ever peep some old Nancy comics?
I peeped them. Never accessed like school libraries where I got a lot of our comics. Like I said, really, really small town. But they did have things like Calvin and Hobbes and I ended up seeing Nancy comics, but never getting a collection. Not the discography.
Did your school librarian ever make a mean comment about how you didn't? Because that happened to me and a bunch of us. Because all we would do is take out the comic books from the school library, and the librarian would get so pissed. She'd be like, "When are you boys going to take out a book with real words in it?" It's like I just wanted to read all of the Far Side again. So
yeah, when are you going to read something like a graphic novel? Things with paragraphs.
Here, kid, I give the kid like Dark Knight Returns, and he's instantly traumatized.
Yeah, here's Mouse.
Wish we had that. Yeah, we didn't have that. Mouse was already banned at my Catholic school.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
really?
They already.
They're on the pulse.
They back in like 2001, they were banning shit. They wanted to ban Harry Potter.
Well, they were right about that, but for the wrong reasons.
I know. It's weird how that circles around.
Yeah, that happened to my dad. He hated Harry Potter because it was satanic, and now he likes it because it's turfy. Of
course.
The right
you ban Harry Potter on what, the magic, and then like look at the young adult section just vanish without magic.
Yeah.
Just no more young adult books.
No more YA books. No more magic in this world. We're gonna have YA books about guys farming. Actually, I love that. I would love if like farming YA novels became popular.
No, they want the alternate history, like where you go back and live in the Roman times and you're a persecuted Catholic.
Oh yeah, they do that. Remember?
Like, the pagans are persecuting me for being Christian.
Do you remember that TikTok trend where it was people pretending to be Holocausts, like in the Holocaust?
No,
what? I missed that one.
There was like
there a dance?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't a dance, but it was like people. They would like dirty up their faces and wear ragged clothing, and there was like, "Hello,
POV.
I am Mira Janselowitz. I was interned at Auschwitz," and they're making like sad faces, and they have like some music going on some obnoxious music going on in the background.
That's amazing. I'm glad they're doing it. I never went to art school so I'm glad I can still get the performative art experience through that. That's nice.
Yeah. That's pretty close to what art school
Did you go to college? Because you had like success pretty young. So was there a need to go to college?
No, I was fortunate enough that by the time I was 16, we started being able to, like, I was losing money by working at Pizza Hut, and I was like, I can quit my Pizza Hut job and do these fucking comics, do some dumb comics. That sounds much better. And so, yeah, I was fortunate to kind of have the career going by about 16, 17.
Yeah. You missed out on the quintessential millennial experience of spending a lot of money on a degree that you don't use.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. My dad was begging me.
You could have been an alcoholic the whole time.
Yeah, you could have learned true alcoholism in college.
Yeah. I could be, cursing everybody else drunk on Lambrusco. Fucking, yeah, like, they don't understand real art. Me, if they wanted me to go to Denver Art Institute, which they don't even give you a certificate, like, you don't really get anything. Yeah.
What? What is that?
So,
is that like a for-profit or something?
I have no idea. But it was one of those like, fuck you, Dad. I'm going to do the comics instead. No college for me. And so now he's come around.
He's come around. Well, the comics worked out. It worked out.
It did.
Is the fact that all the CNH cartoons take place in a white void, was that influenced by growing up in Wyoming?
Yeah, I mean it's a tundra where I live, so it's 8 months of winter and lots of wind. So yeah, like it starts slowly evolved where it's the plain white background, and then that white background is the landscape, and then they drop a contact out there and can't find it. Yeah, it did. There's a lot of jokes I've made with some folks I know who live in Wyoming where it's like, yeah, see, it's all placed in Wyoming. Look,
there you go. Look. Yeah. Because I mean, you mentioned that earlier about, and I think that's integral to like some of the CNA style is that it's about you and maybe you and a friend making fun for yourselves out in the middle of nowhere in a field, and that's what sort of, I like the idea of that. The Cyanide and Happiness cartoons are this contained universe where only these guys exist, in the moment for that universe and for that joke.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's hyperbolic in the way that, like, I mean, comics in general, the way time works and stuff, and you get to mess with that.
Mm-hmm. See, it's the space between the panels.
Right. Yeah, exactly. See, now we're getting art degree here.
Yeah, Scott McCloud. We should get Scott McCloud in.
Yeah, hell yeah. And
I like his stuff is great. I love him.
I agree. It's super good. And to reflect on what you're saying earlier about, the web or the internet having a little bit of a social benefit to it. I was out in a town of 150 people, and I started working with folks like Dave and Rob for like 2 years before we met in person. Mm-hmm. So like, kind of like it was all over Messenger and stuff, and I'm surprised we didn't catfish each other. We all ended up.
You were all actually guys. You were.
Yeah.
You were all
I
real
totally went against the rule. Back when you sign up to the internet, don't use any information. Don't say anything. And my username was my real name everywhere I'd go and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't know, come and get me, I guess. It's a dangerous drive, so be careful. Bring some kitty litter in case you get stuck.
These mountains, got to get your tire, got to get your traction. Got to get your traction going. I don't know what a Wyoming accent is, so I'm just doing my Canadian accent. I'm just doing my Fargo accent.
It's kind of close. It's a mix of that and like Texas. There's a lot of both and warsh and roof and root, that kind of stuff.
That shit rules. Wyoming's rough because, you know, what are your other two famous things? It's Dick Cheney and the Laramie Project. You know, that's...
The Laramie Project. I didn't expect that one. I mean, there's Yellowstone as well, but the Laramie Project.
that geyser, nature's asshole. No, Yellowstone is obviously very beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't let that fool you. The rest of Wyoming is not beautiful. It's the natives called the area where I grew up Poison Valley because it's considered uninhabitable. So that's where I grew up.
Hell yeah, Poison Valley. That rules.
Poison Valley. It's just called the Valley now.
Okay. That's much better for marketing, you know?
Right. It's a little missing piece of Utah.
I think there's a very funny thing. Because in a lot of places in New York, there'll just be stuff called like Locust Point. And like...
Right.
And
Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah, stuff like that. Really unappealing names. But it's the unappealing name sort of becomes part of the selling factor. Yeah. Because it becomes gentrified, and suddenly it's very funny that you're living in a very upscale place called Hell's Kitchen.
Oh, yeah. And it's all over the place out here, like in the mountains, too. Like, you'll have, the Devil's Gulch. And it's like, have you been to the Devil's Gulch ski resort? It's very nice. It's very comfortable. And it's like, I'm sure that was a warning at some point. But I love that we keep the name. Like, yeah, Devil's Hangnail. Shit like that.
Yeah, it's weird how that... I saw a post by a fella called Tim Faust the other day, and he was talking about gentrification, how it's like the same all around, how it's the same axe throwing people that sort of pop up in the middle of every city. I mean, I've been axe throw; it's fun, but you know that sort of like homogenous hipstery corporate hipstery culture. And you're in Colorado, right? So I'm sure that's in Denver as well. You know, I'm sure you can.
Yeah, Denver's. I've lived in Colorado for I think 8 or 9 years, and Denver is a completely different place. It's extremely gentrified now.
That's fucked up to think, because I imagine, you know, you seem nature oriented. If I can clock you as nature oriented for a second,
you got me. Yeah. I'm one of those like 6-day hiker type of people.
Hell yeah, that rules.
Yeah, that's fun.
Get a lot of ideas for jokes out there on the hikes.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly do. You know, just walking around thinking, looking at shit, you know, look at a tree, think about a thing.
Think better.
It's nice.
I think better when I'm walking. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There's a guy who studied people like you know, composers and writers like Mark Twain, and all of their processes had to do with either like walking or motion, like being in a carriage or something like that. A lot of people just think. I think like when you're driving, you kind of switch to that kind of mindset too. There's motion has something to do with it. I pace like crazy too. So if I'm writing a comic at home, I'm just walking up and down the same spot.
Absolutely. It's well, because it's that thing where I think it occupies your mind better. Because it's that thing where you think, okay, I'm going to have an idea, and then you need to forget about it for a little bit.
Yeah.
And your mind needs to wander to other places.
Yeah. Like, oh, Jesus, the amount of, like, documents that I'll have that are just, like, notepad files from 2009 that have a bunch of dumbass shit that I've written in their ideas, and going back and getting to reinterpret it, like forgetting about it and reinterpreting it for the first time, can like be really good.
The burner.
The burner.
Putting it on the burner,
Put it on the burner and then let it simmer for 12 years and then take another look at it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, the reason why I'm like doing like a lot of these comics, I'm generating a lot of these comics, is because I've just been sitting on like a lot of these jokes for a decade and just never put them out there before. Yeah.
And then like, I mean, when it came to doing animation too, there's just so many ideas you'll come up with that it's like, oh, well, this needs the sound. It doesn't work without the sound, or it doesn't work without the motion. It just doesn't work as well in the comic. And that's very much how we went to doing the animated sketch comedy as well. It's just we had just tons and tons of those that would never work as a comic.
It's if like I were to imagine, because you've done other shows that are plot focused that have like a narrative force, but if I were to like do a CNH show, to me what like the format would be like a sort of like Mr. Show, where it's a bunch of sketches that are linked by other stuff, or because your animated sketch, the one that sticks out, the animated sketch that I always remember is the guy running on the bus, and the fastest runner in the world. It's one of your earlier ones, but that struck me as like exceptionally clever when I first saw it.
Oh, thank you. We do have the Cyanide and Happiness show. It has 4 seasons, and it's exactly how you mention it, like Mr. Show. We have some seasons that are pretty raw sketch form, and then some that are sketch with a through line and a story that develops, and one that's all pretty much a storyline that has sketches within it. So like we've done serialized stuff and slightly serialized stuff. I think that's where we get some of our most freedom, is in the Cyanide and Happiness show itself.
Because you can just work, especially like if you're like me, you just get bored pretty easily. Like the reason why I like gag a day formats is because committing to a serial can sometimes be sluggish, and it's like I'm done this comic and I'm moving on to the next one, which is always sort of a satisfying feeling.
Right. A little less. I'd say it's a tiny bit less like cynical to the boredom of doing something, and more of like getting really inspired about doing this other idea. Like we've done things that like we've done entire depressing episodes to do that. We've done horror. It's kind of the excitement of doing something. Hey, let's do a stop motion one. And things like that pushes us towards it. Luckily CNH, and I'm sure, as you know, like doing a gag a day thing leaves it so open to whatever you want to do, and it kind of helps with inspiration, I think, where you can be inspired by something and you can make it work with what you're doing.
I see this trips up cartoonists a lot, who are like move on to more serialized stuff, or who have established characters in a comic where they get tired of doing it after a while because there's like a new idea that doesn't work within the fundamental format of their comic. So usually they'll just start a new one. Like Zach, Extra Fabulous Zach, started Purvis, I think. I assume because I have all these Purvis jokes, but they don't really work in the main through line of the comics. And he's not even married to a serialization or narrative. Sometimes you just gotta do something different for no particular reason.
I can see why. It's dressing it up, like the presentation is totally different, and I can see where like Purvis is kind of an emotional Mr. Bill, right? He's always just kind of getting beaten up emotionally, and I could see that. Like that's its own foil, so it makes sense to me.
What I want to ask you. So we recently didn't receive a wave of hate. It wasn't it. It was pretty mild criticism, actually, which is fine. Someone blocks you on Twitter and they make a big show out of blocking you, and they're like, I don't like this guy, and then a bunch of other
love
people.
Those guys.
Yeah. But I couldn't begrudge them because it wasn't unfair. So people are just not gonna like you. Nothing you can do about it. But I was wondering, because there's definitely some cartoons I regret. Like, did you ever put a cartoon out there that you later was like, that's a bit much, or
Yeah, sure. That's a bit much, or that's not funny. That all the time. Yeah. But it's really important to me to not change it and leave it up and everything. It's important to me because like it's important for me to be like, no, I don't like that one, or that one's like terrible. There's ones where like, it's kind of used in almost a diary form in that sense, where it's like, don't touch it, don't move it. Like the ways that I'm different now, I want to be able to see that. And I also don't want to run away from criticism as well. I don't want to run away from doing things wrong. I will proudly do things wrong and then proudly say it was bad and terrible.
Was there ever one where like, did people get like really mad at you and then you saw their point and were like, got sort of upset and envisioned your head to be like a heel, like they did in the cartoons?
Yeah, I did one that had, I got, let's see, I ended up responding to over 110 emails about it.
Over 110 emails.
Yeah, and I just personally, like hearing them out and apologizing and stuff like that, I did one that had a baby Osama bin Laden folding a paper airplane. And stuff.
I mean, that's very funny. How near was that to 9/11?
This was like 2006, I think, so not too far
well,
off.
get over it. I mean, we were still in crazy times back then, but
Well, a lot of people from New York emailed me too and stuff. So like, I had no problem saying, yeah, sorry, that probably came off wrong. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry I did that to you. I'm not taking it down, but
yeah. Well,
yeah, when I got to New York I grew up in Dallas, and when I got to New York, I found that people did not appreciate my 9/11 jokes at all. And I was like, why? Like, did you like? And they were like, well, my dad was there, and I was like, oh shit.
Well,
right.
I didn't even know that they were real buildings. I thought.
Well, you
was on
made it
TV.
weird then.
Yeah.
This was all fun until you made it weird.
Yeah, you didn't have. But now you go on the internet. Now people who were in 9/11 are making 9/11 jokes. It's everyone's favorite thing is 9/11 jokes. You know?
Yeah.
Now it's
hopefully
in vogue.
Jon
The
Stewart
same
will come
thing.
around.
Yeah, come back, and all these fresh 9/11 jokes you could be making. Yeah, same thing happened with me moving to Colorado when school shootings were just a Colorado thing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
For the most part, but now that's relinquished.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've reached just about the end. Alex, do you have any like final questions you wanted to do?
I guess the only final question I have is, what do you see for CNH in the future?
Well, I mean, we're gonna keep evolving. We've been having a lot of fun making party games and video games, and doing kind of interactive stuff. It's hard to say. We kind of go by what we are feeling most inspired from. But I would say expect more interactive game kind of stuff.
Hell yeah.
Cool. Where can we find that?
You can go to explosum.net or just search Cyanide, and then it usually pops up immediately. We popped up on a Dateline episode not too long ago.
That's great. That's awesome.
Showed them Googling it, like cyanide poisoning, and first thing is a bunch of Cyanide and Happiness stuff scrolling down.
Very funny.
We made it to Dateline.
NBC,
Awesome.
the show. Well, Kris, you're a wonderful guest. This is like a big coup for me. If like 16-year-old me knew I was doing this right now, he would be freaking out and shitting his
Yeah,
pants.
I can say the same
yeah.
also.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. It's an honor.
Yeah, just wonderful to have you on, and thank you for your insights. And yeah.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me on. And for you listeners at home, make sure to go check out the House of Decline Patreon.
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you for plugging our Patreon, Kris.